Hey everybody, it's another Sunday night, which means it is time for an episode of Explain Yourself. We have a great book to go over here today. I'm really excited to go over. Looks awesome. So I'm going to bring in our guest this week, Paul Thayer, the creator of Project Neosis. Paul, how's it
What's up?
going, man?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. Ready to roll. Talk about awesome comic books.
Sounds good to me, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm going to bring up
Always.
the comic here. And while I do that, give us like the 30-second elevator pitch for Project Neosis.
Yeah, so in the year 2090, a speedster named Crimson Pain rises up and eliminates all the heroes in existence. So the government makes a super enhanced team called Project Analysis to fight off the rebellion. It's super action packed. There's no multiverse or do overs. I'm the writer and publisher and have amazing artists that work for me. So this is our ninth Kickstarter. This is our ninth book. I've fulfilled 8 Kickstarters and 2 Indiegogos. We fulfill them within 3 months. So if you back us, you're going to be getting a book within 3 months.
So we're probably the second or third person to actually go for about 30 seconds there. Normally it takes about 5 minutes for the quick pitch, but that's awesome. So, dude, I think the first thing, I mean, I noticed about this book, and I've noticed it for a while, is the art is just fantastic. It's kind of got that Ryan Otley feel. It's great design, great color, just big two-level quality there. So congrats on that. Tell us a little bit about how you put together your team. Has this artist been doing the book for the whole run so far, or
So Sammy Marquis, the artist on this book, he's been with us. We did a prequel series after episode 1 with 2 issues out so far, and he was the artist on that. And then I put him on the issue Project Analysis episode 2 after that. So then he's did Project Analysis 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he's working on 6 right now. So
cool, cool. Yeah, I mean, I love this. I love the books that are kind of got that superhero feel, but don't necessarily, it's not necessarily just like a dude in the city, like a Superman analog or Batman analog. It has a little bit of difference in it. I think that's kind of a good, especially for indie comics. I think just a good way to approach things. It's really clear what is different and what is kind of the same. You're going to get all the color and the iconography of superhero stuff, but you're going to get a story that's a little bit more got a sci-fi twist. It's got kind of a
yeah,
high
we
concept
we
to it.
we placed it into the future. And at the time of 2090, there was 3 standing nations. And in one day, Crimson Pain eliminates all the prime ministers and all the superheroes that ran those nations. So in the process, the government unites under one banner and makes a super enhanced team called the Project Analysis Unit. And in volume 1, you just see this unit taking out, Crimson Pain's rebellion, thinking it's a small militia. And they have a big fight in volume 1, which now the whole world sees, oh my God, superheroes are back. But the catch is they're not really superheroes. These are soldiers that are meant to kill supervillains. So that's where we're at in volume 2. And volume 2 is issues 4 and 5 so far. And this is the 5th one. So
Cool, cool. So how long? How many pages is each book?
So they're all anywhere from 24 to 40 pages. This one is 24 pages. The one previous was 28. The one before that was 24, and the other one was 40. So we just make sure we have a full story. So like my big thing is like when you pick up a book, I want to make sure they have a beginning, middle, and end. Of course, they push forward to the next issue. But I really try to have as much fulfillment as possible in each series. And then, each issue. And then, of course, each volume, which is the first volume was 0, 1, 2, and 3, which was 4 issues. And now the second volume will be 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're halfway there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to see somebody just put together volume after volume, and I think that gives backers and readers just a real reason to keep being invested in the story, which is awesome. How long have you guys been doing this?
I've been doing this for under 4 years. So
Okay.
4 years, and this is our 9th book.
Awesome, awesome. That's for an indie team. That's a lot of content to generate, and it's even more impressive, I think, when it looks this good.
Thank you.
Um, love this. So I love the concept of the artwork. Tell me a little bit about like, was there any comic that you looked at when you were kind of conceptualizing this that just like, yeah, I really love this run, and I want to bring in like some of the stuff that's there. Do you have any like influences that were really important?
I wouldn't say for the comic book necessarily, but I do consume a lot of content. And um, so basically my original idea is basically the ending of the series. So where we end, I have 35 scripts written. It'll be anywhere from 30 to 35 books. And that is the moment of really what my dreamt up idea was. It's a really complex idea, and we're working our way towards that because I felt like if I could just drop readers off into a scenario like that, it's uninteresting. So we're slowly building into what I really want everything to be. But I just wanted something that was like an HBO series, or like, something that you see and then it just keeps going and going and going until it ends. And that's what I wanted for this series.
No, that's cool, and I think that's about. I mean, I've talked to people that have plans for like, God, 100 issues and stuff, and I really hope they do it. But that's a lot to chew off, to fight off. And I think that, just to be. But I think readers kind of want something of that, like heft, to know that they're gonna get. I guess it's just like a reason to invest in. I'm gonna have these like, if I like it, I'm gonna have these volumes in my shelf that are just awesome looking and have a substantial story they can revisit. And I think it's kind of important for stuff to have an end, especially an end in mind. I think that's something that a lot of people don't either get to or really have a good plan for, and things fizzle out. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
I try to make all my volumes have beginning, middle, and end. Like volume 1 was really like the intro, setting you into the world, and this next volume is like building upon that. And I really want to have that beginning, middle, and end feel on every volume. So like, even if, like I said, we're gonna go to issue 35, but if we do some different stuff after issue 7, the second volume, to finish off the prequel, just different stuff. We're always just gonna be adding on to the fact.
Yeah, I think that like looking at kind of what you said about like HBO series or other prestige TV stuff that it's done really well the last 10, 15 years or something like that. Like every season, the good ones did feel like, yeah, that was a story. Like The Sopranos would do that really well, and they'd even have like cues that were like, okay, they'd always start off with some kind of musical montage thing and reintroduces everybody, and that I always really liked that stuff. And I think that's kind of a good pattern for indie books, like just that amount of like you got your episodes, your single issues that need to kind of go through, certain you need to have like some things pay off there each time, but you also need to have a story that feels the volume like it just didn't stop there and start somewhere else. I think that's it's fun that I guess I've really struggled with that with my books, like just to get the pacing to work with both like the single issue needing to pay off and also like the larger volume needing to kind of have its own needs as well.
Yeah, I added a lot of stuff. Like originally it was gonna be 6 issues and 12, but there's just so many characters that it's just growing. And like I'm going back into it, and if I think things aren't working, I'm deleting 4 books. Like I just deleted 2
Mm-hmm.
books, but I'm rewriting them completely. But there was good things in those books that I think would work for a volume, So I'm just switching
Mm-hmm.
things around. But it's all going to that end point. So
That's what. Did you ever talk to when you were kind of coming up with this and deciding, how you get out in the world? Did you always think it was going to be crowdfunding, or did you talk to any publishers?
So I thought being a writer, there was no way in entry because everything I saw was, no one gives a shit if you just like could write, So like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, let me do my own proof of concept. I made Project Analysis episode 0, which was our first issue. It was 20 pages. Me and Corey Hampshire did it. He did it one of our variant covers, but he did a whole book with me prior. He's done X-Men Supreme, all that cool stuff.
Oh wow,
And
cool.
we did that, and I just brought it right to the conventions, because the main thing I thought was go to conventions, sell it at conventions, and then press, because every time I went to a convention, no one tried selling me, and I came from sales, so I thought that was like my way in. So I was like, let me
Mm-hmm.
do that. I did my first convention and my second convention, and then I was like, oh, like people were kept telling me Kickstarter. I was like, oh, Kickstarter, okay. And then we did our first Kickstarter, and then it's been a great like pre-order source. Like I fund all these books personally. They're 90% finished before we even launch the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
So we do it that way. And then I just started building my crowdfunding land with these Kickstarters. So
Yeah, ever since I took over this show, I've been surprised by the amount of creators I've talked to that kind of have that same approach, where they either had a really good like local comic community, or like maybe they came from a bigger city or area that had like maybe 5 or 6 shops, and they were just used to doing signings and selling things through those shops or through the con circuit for wherever they were. And that to me was like really surprising. I did not think that was like the sort of primary go-to thing for a lot of creators, but I think it's really cool that so many people are. doing that, especially in comics, because I mean, you talk to a lot of, especially artists, man, they do not like talking to people. That's tough for them. And it's been nice to see creators that are like, yeah, man, I want to get out there. I want to talk to people that want to buy this book, at least like as your first option, and then kind of come to crowdfunding after that. I think that's also cool because you probably have kind of some good relationships built up from the con circuit that you have a little bit of an audience to bring into your Kickstarters and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of them also just get at the conventions. Like I do New York Comic Con, I do San Diego Comic Con, I do all the big events. San Diego was the second convention I ever got into,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and we haven't looked back, and that's where we really make a big of our presence. That's why I'm fortunate enough to be able to fund these things prior. But the Kickstarters are needed. I really need to get these Kickstarters up to like 10,000 a Kickstarter, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna release 4 a year regardless. So like once it's really a 10,000 or more each one, it's like highly profitable. So like I do a logo. I think we did 3,500 for this one. This was our biggest first day launch ever. We did 1,700 in our first day. The biggest before that was 900. So we're adding. I think out of the 116 backers, I think like 85 are previous backers. So
Mhm.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, cool. So I just got done with my Kickstarter for the next Scarlet Twilight. It's something I've been looking at with other creators that have done really well on the platform. They're putting up like 5 digits consistently. It seems like the big X factor is just like speed, like being able to put out a book. Sometimes they kind of have two accounts and they almost are like one on top of the other. And I like write and draw my own stuff, so that's kind of tough to pull off. But I've really been looking at ways to like think to myself, dude, I got to get this stuff out faster. How many you said you have 4 issues a year you're trying to put out?
Yeah, we did. So this year we did Crimson Pain, and then I think we did 3 this year. This is our 4th. And then next year, we'll have this one released in the beginning of the year. I have a one shot that's just sitting in my folder that we're ready to release. We have episode 6 that already has 15 pages of lines and inks done, the one that comes out right after this. And that one's going to be a 28-page book. And then I have a book from my publishing company that has 8 pages done. It's going to be the first one that's outside Project Analysis, called Lethal Leopard, that I teamed up with a former wrestler, Enzo Amore, and now it goes by the name Real One. And we're doing a comic book series as well. And that will be like from my another Kickstarter account that I have. So exactly, I've seen that. I've seen the people that do like one a month and stuff, and I
Mhm.
really want to get there because I know like I can get that turnaround. Because I'm saying 3 months is like generous. I usually do it in like a month, 2 months, but 3 months I'm
Mhm.
putting now is like just so I don't have to like kill myself and like stress
Yeah.
about it. And like it'll still probably be out by February, but saying at the end of March makes me feel good. So
Yeah.
because
I
we
mean,
just
there's so
ended our
much.
last one at the end of July. The end of July, I think
Mhm.
we ended it, or the beginning of July, and then we fulfilled everything by September, and then here we are 2 months later. So I just want to build up the next one. I feel like just the proof of concept of people seeing like, hey, this guy fulfills all these campaigns and it's great product, and the books are extremely high quality, like from beginning to end.
Mhm.
So and we do really well at the conventions. Like it's definitely a big seller. So we're just trying to push that pace and letting more and more people see this so we can get moving.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that it's cool that you have like, I mean, coming from like starting out with a con, I think that's something I've talked to a lot of creators that are like really into that. Even the smaller ones, and they're just like out there maybe 2 a month sometimes, selling their books. I think that's great just to like develop a good pitch and get used to seeing what works and what doesn't. But it's also, I think, like important to find ways. It's so hard to just scrape together enough money to make this worth doing that you really can't leave like, oh yeah, I don't really like cons. I'm nervous. I don't like talking to people, sort of thing. I don't think you can really afford to do that if you have a book that could work that way. But I also think that like the frequency is important. I took like way too much time off between some of my campaigns to either like go over to a platform or do some other thing, and it kind of feels like you're starting over every time. And that's I think to make this worth doing, to really build up the momentum, like you're saying, to get to that like 5 figure. I think you got to be a little faster than I've been, certainly. And it sounds like you got a really good plan about how to do that. You're banking all these books that you have ready to go, so you've got some content kind of ready to just go out there when it's the right time. back to kind of the creative stuff, though. I really love your character designs here. I love how. I mean, I'm assuming this is Crimson Pain here with the jaw.
Yeah, middle guy's Crimson Pain, on top's Omega, the guy that he's whooping his ass. That's Lithium. That's our cover A for the book. So anyone that looks at this book, all of our cover A's are the same artist as that does the interiors. So that's Samuel and Prasad doing the interiors. Prasad Rao's our colorist. He's our amazing colorist that's been with us since Project Now, since episode 1. He's did majority of the books for me. He just got picked up with DC, but he's staying with your boy as always because he's my dog. And yeah, so we have a lot of like I wanted to like because we had Corey Hamsher did episode 0, episode 1. We had Julian Shaw and Kyle Penshock doing episode 1, and then now we're with Samuel. But the thing about having armor and having suits, it's very easy, as long as it's that same flavor, that it's very easy just to read everything through. You see the designs, you know who's who, what's what, and we're pushing forward with that. And yeah, we took a lot of time to make some cool ass armor for these cool ass characters,
No, it definitely comes across. I think, like you said too, you're kind of engaging with it at the level that, like, hey, if it's it makes it distinctive. It makes it really easy to tell the story, I think. I think each of these characters I've seen, like if you need to do a panel where it's silhouetted, but you see like maybe the yellow on this guy is what you see, and that's not silhouetted. You know who that was. That would work. And I think that's kind of the real litmus test on a character design that works for comics in a really like economical way that like lets you get the logistics of the story out of the way quickly. But is there like, so did you, I'm assuming like your artists you kind of gave them some directives and they came up with this. What was that process like?
So the first thing I did before I even made the book is I got concept artwork done prior, because the one thing I always saw was, they'll be like, I made this, I made that. If I pay for someone to do the concept art, then bring them in to do the, give it to them already handed, they're ready to roll. So I did the concept art with Johnny Morrow, the majority of it. Johnny Morrow did a lot of stuff for like Disney and Villainous and stuff. And we had fun with that. He did some of my stuff. And then my artists that do it now, like Corey Hamsher on episode 0, he helped tune up some suits for me. It's just a good collaboration. Like I give them all the notes, I give them light sketches, and I'll try to do like textures and stuff to really get the designs locked down. And then we go through a couple different designs. And then of course the artist that's on the main story usually continues to do the concept art with me when we design new characters. So like recently how we've been doing it, and I include this in the back of some of my books. Like we show the finished concept art of like the characters that we do, but we go through like 3 or 4 variations of the head, and I'll say do A, and then we'll go into the colors and I'll go C. And then sometimes we mash things together that we work. Like it's a very back and forth collaboration, but sometimes the things just get nailed right away. Like Thorn, I can say, and that's one of my characters. He has the dual spikes. I drew that exact character that you see. I drew that exact character. And then some, like, it takes more collaboration for, and of course I can't draw for shit. So having a professional actually do it makes it work wonders. So.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of artists, like these variant covers, I think this one's Ken Marion.
Yeah, he just got picked up from the Green Lantern one shot. He's done a lot of DC stuff, Image stuff. I saw him at a convention, and I knew one of the indie books that he did, and he was a super cool guy. And then we've just been in touch for a couple months, and then we just did this cover. It was sick. I'm a big video game guy. There's fatalities in here. I wanted like a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter cover, and we nailed that. And that's where Real Lines and Inks, and of course Prasad colored it, so it's sick.
Yeah, no, it looks awesome. He did a campaign, I think, earlier this year that looked really good.
Yeah, he did one too. He did a big campaign. He did like 50,000 on his stuff.
Yeah, no, I can totally see why. It seemed like he was. I don't think I'd remembered his name before. I remember it from his Kickstarter, but it looked like he had done a lot of DC Image, like been around a long time, and his work's like looking cool. It's like kind of breath.
And then all of our single books, they're all $10 each. Our digitals are $5. Only our exclusives are a little bit more money. Like our cover C is $20, but yeah.
Yeah, dude, I think it's so important to keep digital pretty low. I mean, that's if you look at the margins you make on a Kickstarter with digital, even if you're given 5% of the credit card companies, 5% Kickstarter, the rest is just a file. I mean, I think that's like, and with shipping being the way it is, I think that's kind of something that people are gonna look at and be like, yeah, the digital is a cool way to just get that, read, and maybe down the line you get like a hardcover or something like that.
Yeah,
I really like giving people that option to just follow the story. 'Cause, I mean, spending so much time in this stuff, and I'm sure you like spend a lot of time thinking about this world, the characters, and where the story's going to go and different ways to do like the twists and all that stuff. I mean, it's just like so important to me to just get people to read it. And I think the digital thing, as cheap as I can make it, is really like I'm excited for that. The more digital backers I get, I'm pretty pumped for that. As much as I like people having the physical copies and seeing it out there, I feel like that's probably what this is going to evolve into someday.
Yeah, the digital is great for people that aren't going to get the book yet, and then when they get it, they go, "Okay, I'll buy this next time," and then they'll get it from my website or they get me from a convention, and they just buy everything up.
Yeah, no, I think that's especially when you have like a book that's, I mean, just really solid. This is like I'm kind of just looking. I think I've seen a few of your campaigns before. I definitely remember the character designs and the name. But this is like clearly a very solid book artistically. But it sounds like you've got like a really good vision for this larger story that I think people are going to want to jump in on. And I think when you have that, you just want them to read it because you'll know. Like,
yeah, because the people that are reading it, and now I'm doing podcasts where the guys are reading it and they know what the characters are, and we're talking about stuff. Or like I have people, I would say like even at conventions now, like 30% of my sales, and I usually post all my sales, the majority of them. You know, people are like, "Oh my god, what are we doing with this character? What are we doing with this character?" And it's great to hear because that's the whole point. You know, like I just want people to get involved, and we're gonna build something cool. And I have a lot of people say their favorite character is already dead, and that sucks. But we got more cool characters coming. And that's Corey. So Corey did all of episode 0 for me, and then he does a lot of our covers. So he did this cover. That's our exclusive, only 200 copies. They're going to be $20 a pop, and it's a super cool book. So whatever we don't sell on here, we'll be selling at the conventions.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I think that's something that it makes it easier to invest, I would think, in just cool cover art if you know, hey, maybe I don't make this all back in the campaign, but I know I can get rid of them on the convention circuit, and it just makes it easier to do. I mean, I think that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like if I feel the same way about like when I hear some feedback on my characters, I do 2 books really, Scarlet Twilight and August. August is probably it's been the toughest one to get off the ground, but it kind of means a little bit more to me. It's been really nice when I hear somebody ask questions about it. I can tell they really got into the character, really thought about the world. You mentioned you kind of heard some people say, "Oh, my favorite character, you know, is already dead," or stuff like that. That's I think something you really want to hear from people. Like you kind of came up with the world, and I can tell from the way you emphasize that, you know, there's no do-overs, there's no multiverse. That you kind of do kill off a lot of characters and really try and get that Game of Thrones feel where like, hey, nobody's safe. Is that something you kind of really like was one of your like defining principles in creating this? Like,
yeah, like each book, the consequences have to be real. I'm not saying every book everyone's gonna die, but if they have consequences, like a big thing that's also in anime too is like in season 1 into season 8, the damage is different, the way they talk are different, but they've grown through the book. And I want all my characters to grow through the book, not like grow and they're growing old to 60 years old, but growing like in different areas, like, you know, mentally, physically, you know, different things that are going on. Some of the superheroes or the super enhanced team, Project Analysis, you know, some of them are coping really well with brutally murdering people. Some of them aren't. You know, the main villain, how's he building up people? How does he influence people? You know, we're doing different aspects of the things as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think I meant to ask you about this earlier when you referred to it, but you mentioned it like kind of a twist there. It seemed like the way you described it was sort of a twist, was that these guys are not actually superheroes per se. They're kind of just like special forces dudes that have kind of been given powers, and they do sort of play a superhero type role. What's the importance of that? The distinction there?
So the big thing is Crimson Pain kills all the superheroes in existence. So I take those blueprint heroes, like a Superman looking character or a Mr. Fantastic looking S character, and he brutally murders them in the first book, like horribly. And in the process, you know, the government's like, okay, we can't have this again. So let's get the best of the best. We have this serum. It has a 40% success rate and 60% death. So you're already a psychopath taking this thing. And then we're going to make this unit, and then they're going to go off and kill people. They're going to go kill the villains while we have our beautiful one world government, hooty ha, you know? And now that the world knows that they exist, it's a different type of publicity that they weren't ready for. These guys weren't actors. These guys weren't, you know, philanthropists. philanthropists. They were soldiers, and before that, they all had these weird dark paths that got them to this point. Of course, they're heroes, but they do things very differently, and they're going to be shaped from their actions for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's I think a really cool angle to take on. If you look at like all these guys that are online as podcasters that are like Navy SEALs and all that stuff, you can tell that some of them their stories are really interesting, and their kind of journeys to where they are now are cool because some of them had like a lot of trouble just adjusting to a different environment. But there is kind of a real, I would say, you can certainly see translating that experience or that type of person into a superhero thing that also has to grapple with some kind of like a celebrity or something like that, like a different thing than just doing what they have to do.
Yeah, it's switching now for them, and they're seeing different reactions, and it's definitely gonna, as the story progresses, it's gonna shape these characters differently than it would have if they would have just been a secret operation. So we're taking all those into effect, and that's why we're building out this big world. Crimson Pain, every time he gets on the page, people die. Crimson Pain for 9 books has never faced off Project Analysis. And for the 9th book that we have in the world, he's fighting them. So it's going to be the craziest thing ever. And there's, of course, other things going on. This is episode 5. If you're new, I recommend grabbing episode 4 with episode 5 because, like I said, our volumes are new reader friendly. So when you jump into the volume, you kind of know what's going on from the first couple of pages. And then, of course, if you want the whole thing, you get the whole thing. But you can either A, add episode 4, or B, get one of the catch-up tiers where you save some decent money.
Yeah, cool. I think that's one of the things that, like, having it compound so you have all these back issues for people to get. I kind of found my last campaign that was like just an awesome thing to have. But I wanted to kind of ask you about Crimson Pain. You mentioned he's, I guess, like a supervillain that's just kind of a little bit like in Wanted, where the supervillains, like one guy kind of gets everybody together and says, "Hey, let's take all these dudes out." It sounds like he kind of did it himself, which is cool. Tell me about that character.
So he did it all himself, right? And then we did do a one shot where he basically shows how he got a lot of these super enhanced people on his team. And this team was always a small operation. But if you scroll up, you see them with the fleet now of aircrafts. Like this is a way bigger operation than they thought now. And from issue 0 to the issue we're at now, it's been 5 years in between. Like we had a couple 2-year jumps in one of the books just to establish like where we are, where the team is, etc. And he went from, oh, this is a small operation to now like this is a real big world threat. And this is the first taste of it in this issue. But he's really a mystery. You don't really know why he's doing these things. You can tell he has a connection with some of the characters that he's killed, and they knew who he was prior. But you don't know why he's doing this. Before they even get to the conversation, he's already beating the hell out of them and ripping their spines out of their chest. And he's clearly got some vengefulness in him. And in this issue, we do find out some of the things that we have Easter eggs for throughout the book. And then in the next installment, the one that comes after this, we're going to tell his origin in like 8 of the pages of the book.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I mean, I like the idea of taking somebody that's like, you kind of have thought this out. I think it's pretty clear, and like sort of, you kind of created like a sandbox world that's got like, okay, they've got 3 governments. They're trying to like do the one world thing now. He's kind of been a wrench or a wrench in the gears in doing his thing. So he kind of killed all the heroes and just like didn't necessarily, it wasn't like I'm killing all the heroes and taking over the world right away. He just killed all the heroes and people were like, okay, what the hell's going on here?
Before this happened, there was 30 years of peace, or at least that's what they said. And there was 30 years of peace where there was no major wars. And then this all happened in one day. He's super fast. He went to each location and made sure they were done. And that's what birthed this new world. And, there's a lot of different side effects to that. And there's more side effects to even these new heroes coming out. But Crimson Pain is definitely the main bad guy of this world. So there's no one a bigger threat than this guy. And there's been other villains along the way. There's going to be more villains that come, but he is the head honcho.
No, I like the way you've just in kind of how you're selling this. Like, this sounds pretty cool. There's enough that he's done that you've described that is like, aside from just looking really cool, he's got a great visual. In fact, I had a character in August. They had like kind of a prosthetic jaw because of some injuries he had suffered. And I'm like, I love the way you like brought the mask kind of nose thing, and I'm like, shit, that's a lot better. I wish I'd done that. But it's like a really cool visual, and united with the fact that he's in kind of the things he's done and hasn't done. Seems to have a really good plan that you want to know more about.
Yeah, you don't. This is the one where you find out a lot more. But it was like in episode 4, it was always in the shadows. Like they fought a couple bad guys, and there was a base in the jungle, which was like a small militia team. And then now there was, they fought these guys that were dealing arms in the city, and that's where they had this big fight with a super enhanced. And then now they go to one of the ports, and they see like thousands of troops there. There's like thousands of troops there. They're fighting. And then now, as the other team is going to meet up with the rest of the team, because there's 7 key players on the Project Analysis team, they're intersected with Crimson Pain. So it's just everything that they were told about what this was is definitely different. So, even the characters are having surprises with the readers.
No, I like that. I mean, I like that it's clear you've thought out what his whole plan is. He's doing something. He's got, this is going to happen this time. This is going to happen that time. And to discover that, that's, I think, like the Save the Cat 3-act plot structure, where it's like you have that moment where the heroes think they've sort of got a handle on it. They realize they don't. It sounds like it's a really good plan you've given him that they kind of have to just logistically figure out. Yeah, that's exciting stuff.
Yeah, and it's only, I keep throwing more eggs in, but it's very hard to decipher. Like, I want people to guess. I want people to think what's going on. But it's very hard to decipher. But it's there, though, in the books. Mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to give it to you. If you read it enough and look hard enough, you can find out more things that I'm not telling you. And then, because I really want that. It's each issue. It's not like I have an issue a month. Like, I want each issue to really have that full fulfillment of, okay, it's 60% action or 70% action. There's things that go on. Okay, the plot moves forward. There's consequences. I have all that in each book.
Yeah, no, I think that's like so important to do. And I think especially when, and this has kind of been my approach as well, is I generally will be like, all right, dude, I've got this story. It's going to be like 12 issues. It's going to be like Watchmen or something. Yeah. And then like what happened to me was like I talked to a publisher who was interested in it and ended up kind of doing it. They're like, yeah, dude, maybe 7 issues. And actually by 7, we mean 4. And I had to cut it down. I'm really glad in retrospect that I did. I think the pacing became a lot better from doing that. But yeah, it's kind of surprising. Most creators, I think, come to this with kind of grandiose plans that get altered in some way, but they don't, in changing that, keep their eye on, okay, it's 4 issues now, or it's a different plan now. I still have to keep my eye on the ball as far as keeping like every issue really exciting, really fun, that you answer a few questions, but you raise a few more in a way that doesn't seem arbitrary. And I think what you said about his plan and that's there to figure out is like super important. And I think it's a really hard thing to do with mysteries. It's like, I think that the cardinal rule there is like, after it gets all laid out on the table, you've got to be able to go back and be like, oh yeah, dude, that was right in front of my face. I didn't see it, or I did, and I figured it out, which is cool too. I think that's kind of just at the core of like respecting the reader and giving them like the right experience, whether it's like, hey, you missed it, but it was there, or you got it and you solved the mystery, you figured out the clues.
Yeah, and then as soon as you find out, it's only gonna get worse. Like, it's not like it is superheroes, but it's not superheroes of like the good guys win. It's just reality, and whoever's the strongest and the baddest is actually gonna win. Because if you hesitate with these guys, they die. Like, you'll see when sometimes someone hesitates, they die. You can't hesitate. They got to win. And, everyone has even in real life, everyone has their own emotions and egos and stuff, and it can get in the way of how to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump off here and take a quick break and play a message from our partners at Age of Geek. When we come back, we'll just keep going over this stuff and kind of maybe go into more of the marketing side, the type of things, like how do you get the word out? And we covered a little bit of this, but kind of just the logistics of making the book.
Cool.
Click that cat and mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission? To celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
Yeah, very cool. I love that commercial, and they have a lot of great content over there at All Ages of Geek. So if you're watching this, if you're into some of the stuff you saw there, definitely head over there. You're going to find a lot of cool stuff. But back to Project Neosis, I think just from talking to you and looking at this campaign, aside from just how strong the visuals are, which I think is obvious related to how well you've thought all this out, you really give, I think, the reader a pretty good value proposition. Like, you've got a good story. It's going in a good direction, and I think it's kind of set up in a way that really, I can tell you have the reader in mind when you constructed this. I don't necessarily see that all the time with other creators. They kind of have like, I want to do this thing. I like it. It's about these influences I have. It's which is important. I mean, I think everything springs from that, but you kind of have to step back and have a little bit more of a business sense about, okay, what's really, I'm on the other end of this. What's going to be fun for me to back each issue, to follow this, to maybe go back and find out some more of the backstory. Did you kind of create that as a plan, as far as like, you had this big epic story, you were kind of doing it at cons a little bit at first. Did you like, how do you go about like really communicating that this is going to be not just a good individual comic, but like a really good project to follow and keep going with and stick with you through?
I really think it's just about putting out the more properties, like meaning more books. Just because like when I go to conventions, like if I go, for example, I go to New York next year, they're like, okay, where's the next one? Like, it's the same thing as this. It's like people will be like, okay, Project Analysis. I want people to see that and go, okay, let me get this book. Like, the name just needs to pop. Like, I feel like and this is what I did, and I wish I did it sooner. Like, I do wish my 2 prequel books were just called Project Analysis, just because it's just better to just build, in my opinion, right now, one thing over and over again, let people know it's there, and people are going to join. It's going to be for some people. It's not going to be for some people, but at the same time, it's just about, I just feel like getting out the book and making sure it's good quality is just all that matters. And then it should just be reaping the rewards itself. I go on so many things, and I talk to so many guys that do $100,000 or $1 million campaigns, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's not doing 100,000. I'm like, I know, that's great to hear. But I was like, I was
gonna say something similar. I'm like, this book is so good looking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know if I just put my head down, grind, keep grinding. I started doing this full time in March, and it's just, just pushing until that happens, because I know it's going to happen, because I see what's out there and I see what's going on, and I came from district VP sales. Like, I know how it works, and it just, you just keep doing it. It's going to work, especially if you have a good product. It's just one day it'll click. Like, this one's already getting better than the last one. That's all I got to ask for. And then I hope the next one too just gets better than the next one. And then if we just keep building this initiative and more people talk about it, word of mouth, it'll speak for itself.
Yeah, I think that's something. I mean, I talk to a lot of creators, and I'm on a Discord with a lot of creators, and I think people are like excited in general, but at times when people are a little discouraged, it's like you can see that you can kind of see that, like, it's the struggle of just doing this over and over again is taking its toll. But I guess, I mean, I look at stuff where if you've got a good book, especially a good looking book, because it doesn't, like, you can just look at these images right away and say, okay, this is good. This is high quality. And I mean, that kind of feeds back on itself. Like, if this book sucked, if the story was just garbage, like, you wouldn't be able to keep hiring great artists to do it. I mean, it just wouldn't work out eventually. So it kind of is its own bona fides in that way. But I also look at stuff that especially things that I think have taken much longer than I would have thought they would have to get off the ground. I'm like, if I know they're good, and I know I keep doing it, it's kind of crazy to think it wouldn't catch on eventually when other things do. I mean, if you're doing something that's not just wildly different, like genre changing, and it's good, I think what you kind of described is, I think, something that people should keep in mind is like, yeah, this is good. I know it's going to catch on. It's a good story. It's good art. There's no reason, like, it's kind of more crazy to bet against it eventually doing those types of numbers than it would be to bet that like it'll never take off in that way. Because I don't think it's sort of impossible for people to ignore something of that high quality for a long time.
Yeah, I definitely think it's just about being persistent. It's the same thing when I do conventions. Like, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see like when I do a convention, there's sometimes I sell hundreds of people at a convention, but people don't see the the 500 that said no, to get me the 400. You know what I mean? So like, or the 1,000 that said no to get the 200. But I just keep going over and over and over and over and over. That's how I could do the pitch in 15 seconds. I did that thousands of times at New York Comic Con, and it's just about hitting it and hitting it. I'll see people try. And then an hour in, they're done, and then 2 hours in, they're finished, and I'm on hour 8, third day, fucking cranking, even taking no's. Like, you got to take no's all day. And with the new generation, I feel like people aren't good with taking no's, and they'll eventually give up, and I won't. So
that's the biggest thing, dude. Like, I think something, I was just talking about this with my wife, who like we see, like when we first moved to the suburbs, which we are in the last 4 years, I didn't know that like people like took their kids to the bus stop and stood there until the bus came. And I'm like, that's so weird. I mean, I'm really dating myself here, but I look at, things like that. And then I hear from other people I have a lot of friends who are teachers at different levels, and they are like, their students will just really not understand if something's hard. Like, yeah, dude, you can keep going. You're allowed to keep going if it's hard. And I've actually seen that additionally with people like my own age, and I'm pretty old. That's a tough thing to communicate if you don't just have it in you. Like, yeah, no, that like you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna like way more bad days than good days, really. But you kind of have to, I think, be rational about what you're selling. But if you do have something that you know is good, you just got to keep pounding away at it. It's going to work out eventually. But
100%.
And that's, I think, something it's tough for artists too. I mean, my day job is dealing with, is doing commercial art, and not as much like anymore do I deal with other artists day in and day out, but I did when I was starting out. And I was really surprised at like how different some of those people are.
Yeah.
Like I had a friend who's like actually taught me everything I know about doing digital art. An older guy who'd been an illustrator for like a long time, is great. But he'd be like, yeah, dude, you can't take me to meetings. I'm going to say something stupid. I get nervous. Like, I just can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? You have to do that. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's kind of tough for creative people sometimes to know that you're like, yeah, dude, there's a whole other side of things you got to get into and really, really get accustomed to. And it's especially hard when it's something that means a lot to you. I mentioned I have like 2 books. The August, the kind of sci-fi book I do, is probably a little bit more important to me, and I've always had trouble just getting interest in that. And I kind of found in this last campaign I tried to do a hardcover print run earlier this year. It just didn't go anywhere. Really couldn't like give that book away. And I made an add-on Scarlet Twilight, and suddenly like I sold out of all of them. So I think it's kind of just a matter of like, if it's good stuff, it's going to work out eventually. You just have to find that pathway to doing it. Just sounds like that's kind of like your approach. It sounds like.
Yeah. I'm ready to roll, like I'm all in. Like I quit my job for this. Like, I'm doing it full time, ready to roll. And we have really high quality stuff, so
yeah,
like,
you do,
like my trades, like they're super high end, and the interiors are like the same thing, like if I like the artwork is the colors pop on every single page, like, this isn't no joke, this stuff,
Yeah, I mean, this is like, yeah, especially like the panel I have up here, like this is how like Marvel books look, man. Like, even this coloring style, I think Martias Gracia is the guy that does a lot of Marvel books. He was kind of like the main guy for a few years when the X-Men were on that weird.
My first book, I had Brian Valenza. He does all the Marvel stuff now. He was big in Marvel, like 3. Yeah. So like I found him, and he was with Marvel. That was it. He's doing Ghost Rider, Star Wars, all that shit. He couldn't work with me anymore. I was like, fuck. And then I found Prasad, and Prasad is a mastermind, and we collab so well together. I give him minimal notes. change maybe one thing out of the whole book that he does, and we just talk really well. We work well together. It's with all my guys. We work really well together, and they all give a shit. And that's what matters, that they all care about this book being successful. Like, you'll never see a colorist retweet as much as Prasad does and post about it. And, you know, like, just being excited about it. And Samuel texting me about like character development and what we're doing with certain characters. Like, they don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's what they want to do, which is cool. So.
Yeah, no, it's like, to reiterate what I said before, like, this is just Marvel level stuff. I mean, you would look at this and be like, yeah, that's a big 2 book. You wouldn't even think that was.
Yeah, I would hope it eventually catches on too. So like, and hopefully, you know, I will work with Marvel or DC, and that's really the whole point of also doing this is, hey, making a great proof of concept, and not, of course, selling this is my baby, this is what pays the bills, but doing it as like, hey, like, I can do this. You know, I worked with some movie companies on some stuff. They're making books for their company. And I got that through having a great product, but excluding that, you know, waiting for that Marvel and DC, I'm ready, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And I think that's something that feeds back into the crowdfunding stuff is I look at people that have even done like minimal Marvel and DC work that I didn't even know their names. I keep track of like almost everything, especially with artists. You come back to Kickstarter and you just have like those bona fides, you're doing way bigger numbers, it seems like. And that's kind of one of the reasons, aside from like, you know, the fact that I always just wanted to draw Batman or Night Thrasher or something like that, that I really, you know, want to do that. And I think that I've heard from some creators that there's a little bit of a prejudice against people that come from crowdfunding, which I think is insane because like you have people in crowdfunding that are not necessarily just writing good stories in the little sandbox that they've created, but like, hey, these people will know how to like retweet stuff so it gets attention. These people are like getting the word out in addition to doing creative stuff. And it seems like that's kind of the job of a writer nowadays, at least. I mean, to sort of be doing not just the story, but getting people excited about the story, whatever, you know, venue that happens in. And I'm really shocked we haven't seen more people just like get snatched up from Kickstarter campaigns in the same way you do from like other books and small publishing.
Yeah, I've been doing it. And also I think being at conventions is a big thing. Like I've been talking to a lot of the big guys. I posted some of the pictures I take with a lot of people, and a lot of people get my books, and a lot of people from DC do pick them up or Marvel. And then I have a lot of people that I just hand stuff out to. And then hopefully, you know, one day, you know, I just get the call and I pick up books every week or every month, realistically. Sometimes every week. I love what they're doing in DC and Marvel and Image right now. I really think it's like the best time of comic books ever. I think it's really superior. And I think we're about to hit that big Renaissance age again within this next year or so. So
yeah, dude, I agree, man. Like it does feel like that. I feel like there was an era of just things being like up and down in weird ways creatively. And obviously COVID, like sales were really good for a while. You know, that's a whole other thing that probably much smarter people would need to dissect. But I think that like creatively, it seems like all the big characters and all the big names and creators are doing like the best type of thing they could do. That's my gut feeling. It sounds like it's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Absolute Batman killing it. Everything Todd McFarlane's doing with Spawn, building out his universe, killing it. I think Marvel, I think what they did with Bloodhunt recently was really good, and Deadpool team up is really good. And a lot of these like different, everyone's taking more bigger risks, which is great. It's what you need. And then, you know, I think the indie scene too is really well. I think a lot of the guys on Crowdfunder is doing some great books, and, you know, there's some guys that are blowing out of the water that wouldn't need to work for anyone else. But even if I was doing 100,000 on a campaign, I would still kill to work for Marvel or DC, you know, just because that's my childhood. That's why I'm in comic books. I love Batman. I love Superman. I love all these characters. And, you know, I would love to take a gander with them. And I think my way of storytelling really would work for them. So I just know once I get that opportunity, it'll translate.
No, I think you have a really logistical sense about your stories that I think is like, yeah, that's what a lot of people have great ideas, great character, or write great dialogue, or have a really good, like, what if Clayface was like this kind of, you know, like a good take. But I think that's almost like a lot of people have good ideas, but there's a difference between having that and then translating into something that's like really sellable, really exciting. And I think that like a lot of the stuff you're mentioning about like the absolute line or the ultimate stuff now is there's a lot of comics people are getting like excited about. More so than I think I've seen in like the last 5 years. People are
And
pumped
it's
about the
top
ultimates.
notch. Anyone that says it's mid or less are just lying. You know what I mean? They're lying. The art is the best it's ever been. That's period. And then,
Yeah.
the colors, bro, the colors right now, like my book, other books, it's insane. Like Prasad just did, he has a book coming out this week. He did one of the Action Comics variant covers for Superman. And the colors
Awesome.
look sick. It's just like we're there, and I definitely think it's a great time to be in comic books. And I also think I honestly don't even think there's that too many people that are doing this. I think it's people will do one book a year or something. That's not, in my opinion, that's not my competition, so like it's, if I'm constantly putting out product and great stories that people love and want to dive into and really freak out every single time. Like people on social media, like I get tagged all the time now. Like they're like Team Crimson Pain. And I'm like, you psychopaths. This guy killed 90 million people and you want him to kill the superheroes, dude? Which is cool though. I need that, So it's a lot of fun. That's gonna be a double page splash. It's gonna be sick. That one's Omega. The guy next to him's Thorn. It's gonna be super cool. They're taking the fight right to Crimson Pain. He's a speedster that's taking an aircraft because he's lazy right now, and then they're gonna fight him on the aircraft. It's gonna be sick. It's so crazy what happens in this book. And then, like I said, the next one's already almost halfway done. So I really want to go right into the next campaign, and we're going to build up a pre-launch for that as soon as one's over, and then hopefully we break records again. We're at 118 backers. We're like $45 away from 4K. The most we ever did was 4,269 on Kickstarter, and I definitely think we can break that. Usually that last day or 2 days, we get a lot more backers coming in. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like just to end on this, I think as a person who's thinking about backing, the way you describe those scenes, like, oh yeah, this fight's about to happen. This guy's doing this and that, but it's going to like, this is finally going down. That's the way I think about the scenes I'm really excited to get to. I'm really excited to draw those out. I'm super pumped for people to read them when I finally get it done. That's the type of thing that you have to pace it out correctly. And I think people know from listening to you that you really do that. That's the kind of energy you want, man. That's the type of thing that people need to like see in these comics and be like, yeah, dude, this fight is going to be so freaking cool. This has been building in this way. I mean, like, even if you're coming to it cold, you have no knowledge of these characters, I think you can kind of get the vibe from what you're talking about that like, yeah, this is going to be fun. It's going to have gravity. It's going to be important. And just going to be a good ride. So everybody watching now, or if you're watching this later after we recorded, the link to Project Neosis episode 5 is in the description. You can just go down there, click on it, head over there and back. You've got 6 days to do it. And this is a great book. Once we're done, I'm definitely going to back this one. It looks like great kind of superhero adjacent sci-fi geopolitical stuff with great stakes, great characters, and beautiful artwork. So dude, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this with us. It's an awesome looking book. Yeah,
thank you for having me. We're late at night and super excited to be here to talk about Project Neosis. And then for anyone that's looking, hey, it's $5 you get a digital, $10 you get a single issue. You can't beat that, and you're going to be getting these books by March. So
awesome to hear. Before we head out for the night, I want to share a few more things. Archetypes is campaign's over. But this is the magazine Joey my co-host who's not here tonight, kind of came up with. It's a love letter to Wizard magazine, but for indie comics. Really cool stuff. The campaign ended. It was successful, but you can still back with a late pledge. So the link to this is also down in the description. Head over there and check that out. You can get a lot of cool stuff here. There's a ton of content. We got so much stuff that we just made the book bigger. So it's a great deal. You're going to see a lot of indie comic stuff, short stories. This is our cover A with a story by Jonathan Hendrick about obviously a rabbit. Some pretty cool twists there. Our variant cover I did. It's kind of homage to Fangoria Comics. So people, if you're into any of that stuff, if you are into indie comics in terms of just reading like short stories, but also seeing stuff like that goes into making your stories or creating your Kickstarter campaign, how to construct your writing structure. You're going to find all that stuff in Archetypes. You can also get the previous issues the regular cover here, and my Wizard homage variant. So if you're in any of this stuff, or you just miss reading Wizard every month like I do, this is a great thing to check out. So head over there, and you still have time to back this. My campaign, let me switch over to that. Countdown to Cobalt Crisis is the next Scarlet Twilight. The first one was just basically an examination of like sort of Golden Age tropes with a modern twist and some history thrown in there. This one is I finally came up with a good idea that was worth doing, which is kind of taking your big two events like Crisis on Infinite Earths or Secret Wars, but combining that with all the pulp atmosphere of the Golden Age. So this one was really happy with how the campaign did. Very excited to get this out to people. Digitals went out this weekend, but you can still do a late pledge once Kickstarter releases the funds. We're going to send this one right to the printer. It's already done. So you don't have a ton of time, but if you're just seeing this and you're interested, you still have a little bit of time to head over there and get your copies of this comic. So hopefully, if you're into the Golden Age, if you're into a different take on Secret Wars or Crisis, you're going to love this one. It's a really fun setup to the main story that we're going to be doing next year. And I could be more excited about how this one's come together. So head over there and check that out. And I think that'll do it for the night. We only promoting those two things. And yeah, I guess that'll do it. But thank you for coming on and talking about Project Neosis. It's awesome to see such a great looking book, but also like a really well thought out universe. I think it's going to be really fun for backers to check out.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed checking out this book and talking as much as I have enjoyed looking at this artwork and hearing about your plans for the story. Make that full screen and you have that great looking book there. You can obviously, I think, get all those previous issues here as well. So cool. A lot of content to explore there, as you can see.
Ready.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great way to end it. Paul, thank you again for coming on, man. It was awesome to talk to you.
Likewise.
All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great week.